Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is I, Trinity Jackson. Have you missed me? Okay, I've been gone for a couple of days, and honestly I'm about to be talking about that today. I had a huge issue with my apartment that kind of left me in a position where it was like, ew, this is like kind of making what I do difficult. But I'm going to be talking about what I learned from that, because honestly, I feel like I could have bounced back a lot quicker if I focused on changing a couple things instead of feeling like I was completely thrown off. But let's go ahead and get into this episode. As always, the link to the podcast will be in the description below, along with the Discord where you can join me and my growing community of supporters where I would love to find you. Well, okay, let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of Conversations Are My Thing. I am your absolutely lovely host, Trinity Jackson, in a great mood today. I've been feeling, oh my goodness, so like discombobulated these last 48 hours, but today everything came together and I was able to get over it, and now I can finally talk about it and what I learned from the situation, and that's what I wanted to get into today. So long story short, I'm going to go deeper into it, but long story short, my electricity got cut off after like 9:30 on like 2 days ago, and I called them. I was like, what's going on? Because mind you, I haven't even lived here long enough to have gotten my first bill, mind you. And then second off, it's like, why is this only happening to me? So I called them there. Oh, sorry, mistake. We're going to send somebody out to your apartment to fix it. They go to the wrong apartment, right? They go to the wrong apartment and they're like, oh, the electricity is on here, and they leave. Mind you, my apartment is still without electricity, but I wasn't here to receive them whenever they first pulled up. They just talked to the maintenance people. So the first day without electricity, I was like, okay, that kind of blew me. Couldn't charge my phone in here. No stove, no microwave, fridge was off. It was like I was super annoyed, but it was just like, okay, let's just move around this. And honestly, I feel like I still let it debilitate me a lot, like way more than it should have, right? Yes, it was a nuisance. Yes, it was annoying. I got it all solved and worked out today. I'm so glad to be over it. Like, I literally, when all my lights came on today, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. It was literally 2 whole days with no electricity. I had to keep leaving to charge my phone. I had to keep calling Centerpoint. I was literally on the phone with Reliant back and forth trying to figure out what the issue was, why the wrong apartment was listed under my name, how to explain to them what apartment I'm really in. A long process of getting everything together, but I'm glad that we are back in AC. We're back and with lights and being able to charge my phone. However, I honestly let this throw me off my whole day. Like, as I've been working on my planning, so the day before I actually had my day planned. So when the electricity went off and I wasn't able to charge, I didn't have my phones charged enough. I wasn't expecting electricity to go off, so obviously, and my phones hadn't fully charged. I was still like in the middle of actually like getting ready. It was like terrible timing. So I was like, okay, and so I was on the phone with them as I was leaving to go where I needed to go for the day, and they told me that by the time I got home that was gonna be fixed. So I didn't really think much of it. But when I got home, I should have been more like incessant on, okay, get someone out to fix this right now. Sorry, like at ASAP, which I told them, but I also just kind of waited around, and that's where I feel like I could have made a better adjustment. I think your ability to get yourself work through problems is gonna only determines like what kind of person you are. So I was thinking about how I worked through the problem. You know what? I kind of waited around too long. I was waiting around for someone to show up and turn my electricity on, sitting in this dark apartment, when I really could have just grabbed my laptop, moved my headquarters for the day, and continued to work on what I needed to work on, instead of saying, you know what, okay, I'm gonna push it to tomorrow because I know tomorrow I'll be able to have electricity and do it, because then I didn't have electricity the next day. So I ended up going 2 days where I was delayed in what I said I was going to do and the things that I needed to complete for my checklist. And I'm like, you know what, Trinity, this just shows that we have to work on our adaptability, your ability to adapt to a changing situation. And this kind of goes back to not knowing what is going to happen next in life, but being prepared and saying, I'm going to figure out as I go. So I'm like, you know what, this is my first apartment. This is my first time ever dealing with this. You know, this is like real adulting. And I was like, this is just a part of my growing process, but I have to work on my adaptability. The issue happened. I was okay, I shouldn't have sat around and waited for someone to come fix it. I should, as they were coming to fix it, I could have been still getting what I needed. Be like, okay, the electricity is off. How are we going to change this? Like, let's not just be mad it's off and be super frustrated and get annoyed and let the situation keep us down for the day and throw us off. Let's think about a different way that we can still get what we need to get done without the electricity in this apartment. That's what I should have done sooner. And I always like to use this. I really like to use this podcast as like a way for y'all to experience the growth that I'm experiencing. Like, this whole process, I'm still learning. Like, I'm still growing myself. So that's why I do a lot of reflecting. And I was thinking about this morning as I was charging my phone upstairs on the roof. I was thinking, like, you know what? I could have better adjusted when this happened. I wasn't expecting it to happen, but this is a part of living alone, like figuring out what I need to do and handle so that I can continue to maintain my space, and how I need to move when certain things come my way that I wasn't expecting and that I couldn't, I felt like I couldn't do anything. It was such a frustrating situation. And that just goes back to critical thinking about problem solving, and like a critical thinking and problem solving. Let me say it like that. And coincidentally enough, right, I always have a quote or a story that I read from a book. I've been doing a lot of reading again, and even more listening. I listen to books all the time on Audible. I am a big Audible fan. I'm telling you, look in the description below. I have a link for a month free of Audible on the YouTube, and I really do think it's made it so much easier for me to consume information and let it sink into my subconscious and really ponder and think about it. And like while I'm driving or doing things that are already mindless, like cleaning the crib, I just put on an audiobook. And there's one I've been listening to often. I've mentioned it already a couple times on this podcast, but it is The Magic of Thinking Big. That is really my one right now, because repetition is the mother of all learning. The reason I mention some books over and over and over again is because I have listened to them over and over and over again. I'm always getting different pieces of information. So you don't just listen to the book once and read it once and feel like you got everything. Like if it's a storybook, which I just have gotten into recently, which is like Colleen Hoover. I got put onto Colleen Hoover. I read It Ends With Us. Yeah, it's called It Ends With Us, and it was great. I finished it in 2 days. Within 24 hours. Like I started at night, finished it the next day. But that was good. Most books I read are Outwitting the Devil, The Magic of Believing. That's a good one. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Things I want for development, so you read them over and over again. So Audible makes it easier for me to listen to things over and over again. And as I was listening the last couple of days, there was this one story that stuck with me. I feel like I always hear what I need in the time that I need it. So there were two guys. One of them owned a big business, right? Let's call him, he's like a CEO of some company, right? He's some successful guy. He has a business, right? And there's one guy, and he's a journalist, right? So he's going in, and they're good friends, whatever the case may be, and they're watching the show on TV, and it's like a Jeopardy quiz show. So they're asking you all these random facts, and the guy on television answers a fact correctly about the name of some mountain in Brazil. And the CEO guy asked the journalist, he said, "How much do you think I'd pay that guy to come work with me?" The journalist said, I don't know, how much? He said $300. Not an hour, not a month, not even a year. $300 flat. He said, this guy can't think. He only memorizes facts. It doesn't show he's actually intelligent. Everything that he knows can be found in a $300 almanac, because this is like an old book. Basically, you can search the information that he knows. The things that are filling his mind, how far is the moon from the earth, and how hot is the sun, and all these facts that do not actually matter. It's just retention of information, being able to memorize things. But he said, I want people around me that can think and use their minds critically to solve problems and to find solutions and to take action. And that is literally what I started thinking as I was in school. I remember when I was in school and I stopped caring about what I was learning. I said, this is pointless. I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, why am I learning this? I don't care about this. I hate physics. I hate calculus. when am I going to use this information? Why am I memorizing it just to pass this test? I remember when I was coming up to the AP test, I was so tired of hearing about the AP test. We are spending all year memorizing information just for this one test at the end of the year that's going to determine whether it was worth it you took this class or not. I had A's in the AP classes and I didn't pass the test with a 4, so it didn't matter because I didn't get any credit. They didn't care about the work you did before. They want to know who can memorize the most for this whole year. And this is why I just don't like standardized testing, period. And I'm not a big fan of the school system, because in Outwitting the Devil, he even talks about you have to allow your children to think for themselves. So if you're always telling them what to believe, you're always telling them what they should know and how they should think, then that's why they get older and they feel like they can't make decisions for themselves because their parents always told them what to do. So critical thinking is a blessing for humans to be able to have. It's what separates us from animals, the way our minds work and the way we're able to create things and do things, and of course other things. But the mental capacity is number one, right? That is what makes us so different. And a lot of people do not use the critical thinking skills that they are naturally bestowed with. And that is what has come over me as I figuring out the situation. I was like, I could have solved this faster if I would have done this. Of course, hindsight is always 20/20. You can always look back at a situation and be like, okay, I should have responded better, and whatever the case may be. So this isn't me just I'm not gonna dwell on it. It's already over, but I know that I can make changes going forward to make sure that if there are little inconveniences that I did not expect as I'm going to pursue and work and accomplish things that I'm actually needing to get done, like things on my to-do list that are priorities that are in alignment with my goals for the end of the year, then it's we can't let little things like electricity going out because you weren't expecting it, in a mishap on Reliant and Centerpoint and different addresses. We can't let that throw us off for so long that it's now we got to get back on track. And that's what I learned. And this is still me. I'm in my learning process. I'm always really thinking that everything I'm telling y'all, I'm also telling myself. I believe that it's been proven. You retain 95% of what you teach. So I think that as I learn things in my own life, it's easier for me to explain it to y'all so it sinks in for me. So it's you know what, Trent? You're right. And that's how this podcast has been a blessing for me, even being able to just express my thoughts and put myself in a position to think critically about what I want to say and what I've been learning, and making sure I'm learning more so I can continue to educate. And it encourages me to listen to these books that I'm listening to and go out and have these experiences that I'm having so that I can one day, pass the knowledge down. So if you are listening to this podcast, I want you to know that I do appreciate you and your support. I cannot wait for the episodes to come and how this podcast will grow. So I want to thank you. And I want to say stay tuned for the next episode. As always, I am sending peace, love, and blessings. Mwah!